Hello and good day. Hello, I'm here and good day. I forgot to put my microphone on, and so we're gonna hello and good day. Hello and good day. All right, here we are. Woo. Going over PO10. Yesterday we kind of introduced variables on both sides and how to handle that. You had a few to do for homework. We will correct those. And then if you did look at the second page of PO10 and kind of the if solving equations was a game of Mario, Bowser is on that second page of PO10, and we will defeat Bowser today. That is my goal for all of us. But in any event, we'll start here. Folks, 8x minus 2 equals negative 9 plus 7x. So there were a couple different ways that we kind of talked about how to handle variables on both sides. Raise your hand if you can kind of recap what we talked about yesterday for the method that you used to solve this equation for x. Anyone want to share? All right, fine, I'll share. Okay. So basically our goal, as with any other multi-step equations, is to get a two-step for us to work with, right? Get in that comfort zone. With variables on both sides, that means we have to move all of our x's or n's or whatever it is, but in this case, all of our x's to one side of the equation, okay? And so our options are, if we subtract 8x from both sides, that cancels them out on the left because 8x's minus 8x's is 0. And we're left with negative 2 equals negative 9 plus, minus x. Okay? If you wrote minus 1x, that's fine. If you wrote just minus x, that's fine too. But we have 7x's, we're subtracting 8, that leaves us with negative 1. And here we are, a two-step equation, right? Our next step would be to add 9 to both sides to move that constant over, cancel it out from the right. 7 equals negative 1x. And actually writing that negative 1x can be helpful because it reminds you I'm not done yet, okay? There's a coefficient to x there that I have to deal with, and I do that by dividing by negative 1. Because negative 1x divided by negative 1 leaves us with just x. And then 7 divided by negative 1, we get negative 7, and there we get our answer. Negative 7 is the value for x. Okay? Your other option, if you didn't move your variables to the right, your other option is to move your variables to the left, which in this situation, instead of subtracting 8x, we're going to subtract 7x from both sides. Okay? Because now, this cancels out all of the variables on the right side, and we're left with 1x, or just x, minus 2 equals negative 9. And doing it this way, actually, in this situation, ends up being a little bit shorter, because it's really, if you don't write the 1 especially, you recognize that it's a one-step equation. You know, all we have to do is add 2 to both sides, and since x is positive 1, we get x equals negative 7 a little bit quicker. Okay? But it's that initial step of moving all of your variables to one side, using opposite operations here, gets you that two-step that you can solve. One thing that we talked about yesterday also, if you look at the number of x's on each side, you can think about it as which side has more and how many more, right? Our left side of the equal sign has 8 x's. Our right side has 7 x's. The left side has 1 more. 8 is 1 more than 7. So we can immediately go to that step just by saying, well, 8 and 7 is the same thing as 1 and 0. Right? And then you can solve it from there. So you've got plenty of options here, right? Plenty of options. Any questions on that first one? Did that go pretty well for people? Yeah. Negative 7? Okay, and of course you can check your answer. You should check, right? So you can make sure that you are indeed correct. Will, was that a question or is that just a thumbs up? Things are going well. Thumbs up, things are going well. Excellent. Okay, the next one I had you do was, in the next row, a plus 5 equals negative 5a plus 17. Which side has more a's on it and how many more? Which side has more a's and how many more? Yeah.
The right side by 5.
Not by 5.
Negative 5.
And not the right side either. Which side has more? So we're looking at positive 1 compared to negative 5. Positive 1 is greater than negative 5. So the left side has more, and how many more? 6. So you could immediately jump to 6a plus 5 equals 17. There's our 2-step right there. Okay? Or doing it mathematically, opposite operations, add 5a to both sides to move it to the left, because negative 5a plus 5a is 0a, right? 1a plus 5a is 6a, and now we have our 2-step that way. Subtract 5 from both sides, 6a is 12, divide by 6, a is 2, right? And you can check that. If a is 2, does 2 plus 5 equal negative 5 times 2 plus 17? Right? Just substitute that 2 in for the variable a. Well, 2 plus 5 is 7. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. Plus 17 is also 7. So you know it works out. Okay? It's the one value for a that'll make that equation true. The next one, 4m minus 4 equals 4m. What's special about this one? Falls into a special category. What category is that? What's special about it? Joey?
Also, it's already a 2-step, but it doesn't have any solutions?
It's already in kind of a 2-step form, but more so, it doesn't have any solutions. There's no value for m that's going to make this equation true. And why is that, Joey?
So if 4m minus 4 equals 4, there's already 4m on the left side and on the right side. So making minus 4 is really irrelevant.
Whatever number we plug in for m, these two values will be the same. Because whatever m is, we're multiplying it by 4. So it's going to be the same thing. On the left side, we're then subtracting 4, but on the right side, we aren't doing anything to it. So there's no possible way we can make the left side equal to the right side, right? Because those 4 m's canceling out because they are the same. Negative 4 equals 0, which is what we're left with. If we cancel the 4m, that's not true. Negative 4 is not equal to 0. So it's no solution, and the symbol for that we talked about yesterday is that 0 with a line through it. But you know you are dealing with a special type of equation when you have the same number of variables on both sides. It's either going to be no solution or it's going to be all solutions, right? If this had also had a minus 4 on it, well now, any value for m will work because we're doing the exact same thing on both sides of the equation, right? So take a look. If you've got the same number of variables, then you're going to be dealing with either no solution or all solutions. Next one we did was down here. 5p minus 14 equals 8p plus 4. Which side has more? Oh, we did that one together, didn't we? Yeah, okay. Then we'll skip over to the next one. 12p minus 4 equals 7 plus p. Which side has more p's on it, and how many more? 12 on the left, 1 on the right. Will? Yes, there are 11 more p's on the left side. Remember, this coefficient tells us how many of the variable we have. 12 compared to 1, there are 11 more. So 12 to 1 is really the same as 11 to 0. Okay? Mathematically, if we subtract this p from both sides, p minus p is 0, and 12 minus p is 11p. Okay? 2-step equation, comfort zone, add 4 to both sides. So 11p equals 11. Divide by 11, and p is equal to 1. Okay? You could have also, of course, subtracted 12p from both sides to move it over to the right. You still should get the same answer. Okay? Then next one. Looks like that's it for this page. Any questions on these three? No? What great students you are. Fantastic. I did check the question form. There weren't any questions on that either, so assume that things are going well. Was it just those 4 that you had to do? Yeah. Is that it? All right, so then we move on to Bowser. let's look at this first one here. Okay. Negative 18 minus 6n equals 6 times, in parentheses, 1 plus 3n. Yikes. Gino. Oh. Okay. Let's look at the next one. Let's look at the next one then. 5n plus 34. Did we do this one together? Okay. 5n plus 34 equals negative 2, and then in parentheses, 1 minus 7n. Same kind of situation as this first one here, in the sense that we've got, multiple things happening here. You see parentheses, so you know you're going to have to distribute. You see variables on both sides, so you know you're going to have to deal with that, right? Again, I didn't leave this much space just so you can write your answer really big, okay? Show that work. Make those steps. In conferences last evening, obviously parents got talking about algebra and everything like that, and it came up multiple times that the details here matter. One missed negative sign can throw everything else off, right? One math mistake, if you think negative 2 times 1, if you write negative 1, I don't know, maybe you added them, right? That throws everything else off. So the more work you can show, not only is it easier to find your mistake if you make one, right? But you're less likely to make one. Okay, and then of course checking your answer when you're done. Okay, let's get to it. So the left side I'm not going to touch right now because there's nothing I can do there. There's no like terms to combine, no parentheses. I can't move anything until I deal with what's going on the right side here. So I'm just going to bring it down. 5n plus 34. We'll deal with it later. The right side, negative 2 times 1 minus 7n. We're going to distribute. Negative 2 times 1 is a negative 2. And negative 2 times negative 7n is a positive 14n. Positive 14n. Those negative signs, they belong to those numbers. Okay? Now that we've dealt with the parentheses, now we can look at the variables on both sides. Which side has more n's and how many more? Which side has more n's and how many more? Blake? And how many more? 9. 5 n's on the left, 14 n's on the right. 5 and 14 is the same thing as 0 and 9, right? Of course, mathematically, we could subtract 5 n's from both sides to cancel them out on the left, leaving us with 0. So we have just that 34, and then 14 minus 5 gives us 9. We could also subtract 14 n's from the right side, both sides, and we can get at it that way too. Okay. Typically, I find that most students like to keep their variable term positive, so they'll tend to move it to whichever side is going to make that positivity happen, because we're positive people, I guess. But you're having a rough day, you're feeling kind of negative, you could move it to the other side too. Okay. But now we have a two-step equation. We're happy, we're comfortable. Start with that constant, add 2 to both sides. 36 equals 9 times n. Divide by the coefficient. 9 n's make 36. We don't care. We want to know what 1 n is, and 1 n is 4. Okay. Going back to check that, we're going to substitute 4 for n. So we get 5 times 4 plus 34 equals negative 2 times 1 minus 7 times 4. Okay, you can type each side of the equation into your calculator very easily. It doesn't take long. You can use a calculator on this test. But 20 plus 34 is 54. That's what we get on the left. This one, 1 minus 28, remember to multiply first, right? 1 minus 28 is a negative 27. We multiply what's in our parentheses, negative 27 by negative 2. Negative 27 times negative 2 is also positive 54. So it checks out. The equation is balanced. Okay. Questions on any of those steps in that process? It's a lot, right? It's multi-step stuff. Okay. enjoy this now, because in books 2 and 3, you've got book 1 right now. In books 2 and 3, I put like 4 questions on a page just because the work just whoosh. Okay, whoosh. So enjoy this while you have it. All right, it gets more fun. Okay, pick another one on this page that looks particularly fun, challenging, intimidating. Caleb? Ooh, yeah. Is that the last one? Almost? Oof. Well, the good news is we don't have variables on both sides, right? It could be worse, okay? But we do have 2 sets of parentheses, which means that we're going to have to use the distributive property twice, okay? So we've got -3 times 4x and -3 times +3. That gives us -12x minus 9. Then we've got +4 times 6x and +4 times 1. That gives us +24x, 4 times 6, and +4, 4 times 1. And the 43, nothing to do there, so that just comes along for now. What comes next? Will? Combine like terms. What do we have? -12x, +24x. Total, that gives us 12x's. -12 plus 24 is +12. And then we have our constants, -9. Don't forget about that sign. +4. -9 plus 4. -5. So we have 12x minus 5 equals 43. So distribute twice, combine like terms, and now we have our 2-step equation. The opposite of subtracting 5 is adding 5. So we get 12x equals 48. Divide both sides by 12. And we get 4. Seems like a common answer on this page, 4. I feel like just add 4. I wouldn't recommend that. Let's not get carried away. But okay. Another one that looks interesting. Morgan. The last one, of course. The Bowser of all the Bowsers. And I say that because taking a look at it here, my goodness, what do we have? I see parentheses, so we're going to have to distribute. I'm looking at the 2 sides of my equation. I see x's on both of them, so we have variables on both sides. And on the right side, I've got 2 terms with an x, so I have to combine like terms as well. The trifecta. All 3 of our multi-step situations happen in one glorious equation. Okay? Where do you want to start? What do you want to do first? Peter? Sure. Distribute the 5 into -8x and -2. So we get -40x and -10. And then on the right side, look at those like terms. How many x's do we have in all? How many x's in all? Joe?
2.
How do you get 2?
3.
How do you get 3? If we have -4 and a -8x, combine those together. We don't have to use opposite operations or anything here because they're all on the same side. It's just, what's a simpler way to write having -4 and then subtracting 8 from that? -12. Okay, it's -4 minus 8. And then our constant of 16, nothing to combine that with, and so it comes along. Okay. Now we're ready to move stuff around. Notice we haven't used opposite operations yet at all, right? Because we've just kind of simplifying both sides of it. Now we're ready to move stuff. How do you want to do this one? What do you want to do first? You don't know? Well, let's get all of our x's on one side. Do you want to move them left or do you want to move them right? Left, fine. So if we want to move our x's to the left side, what's the opposite of a negative 12x? Miranda? Add 12x. Uh-oh. You can do so now.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Thanks.
Oh, I didn't even know I had my phone here. What? I don't use my phone anymore. Because I mainly just read books. I wish I could.
Okay, so if we want to move our x's to the left side, we're going to add 12x to both sides because that's what's going to cancel them out on the right side, right? Negative 12 plus 12, there are no more x's there, okay? And so we're left with a positive 16 on the right. Negative 40 plus 12, and here's where PO3 comes back into play, right? Negative numbers, we're adding which direction on the number line we go. What's negative 40 plus 12? Negative 28. So negative 28x minus 10 equals 16. Well, this is just brutal, isn't it? Looking where this is headed, it's not very much fun. But we do have a two-step equation, so at least we know what to do from here. The opposite of subtracting 10 is adding 10. So we're going to do that to move that over. Negative 28x equals positive 26. Oh, Bowser, you rascal. Okay. Now to get x by itself, we're going to divide by the coefficients. Divide by negative 28. And even though that does not work out evenly, that's okay. Okay, we are in algebra now. We are going to get values that are decimals, that are fractions. In this case, we would just simplify. 26 28ths simplifies to be what? Blake? And of course, that's negative 13 14ths. And that would be our answer. Okay. Now, there are a couple ways that you could go about checking this. I don't recommend trying to do it mentally, especially with a fraction like 13 14ths. If it was 1/2, maybe a little bit different, but 13 14ths is pretty nasty. So, a couple things you can do. You can either, when you put it in your calculator, -5, -8, and then in parentheses, just put 13 divided by 14, okay, minus 2. That will give you the value of the left side, right? And then do the same thing over on the right side. -4, then parentheses, 13 divided by 14, minus 8, parentheses, 13 divided by 14, plus 16. You should get the exact same answer. You could, in your calculator, divide 13 by 14, which will give you about 0.93-ish or so. And then you could put 5, -8, times 0.93 and just use the approximate decimal value. That's not going to get you the exact answer. So you might get something like, and this is, I don't know what this is, so I'm just throwing things out here. You might get 3.5 for the left side and 3.46 for the right side. Should you freak out? No, because you rounded, right? That does affect the final value, and these are close enough to where you could still say that you are correct. Another option is to take 13 divided by 14 in your calculator, press enter, and it gives you a nice long decimal. And then go to your equation and then press the answer button. Okay? What the answer button does is it takes your previous answer, in this case, this long, nasty decimal, whatever it is, and it takes that value and it plugs it in there. So it's another way of putting 13 14ths in parentheses. You're taking that decimal value, pushing the answer button. Okay, -8 times the answer minus 2, and you can calculate it that way as well. So 3 kind of different ways to do it. Yeah, either one works. But we saved Mushroom Kingdom, so all in a day's work. Questions on this? Okay, your assignment is to finish any equation that has not yet been solved. Leave no equation unsolved in PO10. Okay, leave no equation unsolved in PO10. That includes going all the way back to this page here and these brain busters and real world question down at the bottom. Using the combining like terms method, write an equation with a variable value of 5. So a sample, you may not use this one, okay? But a sample equation, what I'm referring to is that something like 3n plus 8n equals 55, right? That's an example of a combining like terms equation with a variable value of 5. If I were to plug 5 in for n, this equation would equal 55. So that's what I'm talking about. You need to write an equation with combining like terms. Then the next one, using the distributive property. Write an equation with a variable value of -7. So your equation is not going to equal -7. It's going to have a variable value of -7. And it needs to have parentheses since you're using that property. The next one, write 3 different equations that have variables on both sides. The first with a variable value of 9. The second with no solution, so one of those special types. And the third with infinite solutions, or all solutions. And then the word problem down at the bottom. It's practice with the variables on both sides. So is this kind of a heftier assignment? Yes, but you have 5 days to do it, so I don't feel quite as bad. Yeah. Yes, it does. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns, complaint? Yes, Morgan. Yes, the word problem, the real world problem is included. Okay? Leave no question left unanswered for your homework. No trolls left behind, no equations left unsolved. All right? You got this, folks. I believe in you. That is how you math.